Hi people, my name is Courtney and I am a tour guide currently, and this video is an attempt to answer the question, why in the world, as a black woman, would you be working on a plantation? First of all, the two plantations that I work at are very unique in regards to content and plantation tour style compared to a lot of the plantations in the area. We focus more on the perspective of the enslaved. The first plantation I work at, Evergreen Plantation, we have an all-inclusive tour, first of all. We talk about architecture, we talk about the house, we also talk about the history, of course, but we also go a step further and talk about the enslaved and their conditions. Evergreen is one of the only plantations that has its complete slave quarters still intact from the early 1800s. So it's pretty much the original building, still in the same position. And we do talk a lot about what goes on or what went on during those times amongst the slaves. Now, being that I go to an HBCU and I have taken all these African American studies classes, I can normally go a little bit more in detail about things and answer some more questions. The second plantation I work at, the Whitney Plantation, is a slave museum. We focus entirely on the perspective of the enslaved. We do talk about the history of the property, the history of the family, and we get to view the big house. But we don't go through all of the details about the architecture and stuff like that, like other plantations. Now, I normally get the same response when I tell people where I'm working. Most of the time, when I say I'm a tour guide, they're like, oh, that's nice, where at? And then I'm like, I work at Evergreen Plantation, or I work at the Whitney Plantation. And they're like, are you serious? Why? And I even have people on my tour that ask me what it's like to be an African American woman working on a plantation talking about this topic. And I know it's a hard topic. It's a tough topic because race is such a sensitive issue here. So that's why I'm doing this video in an attempt to clarify some things as to why I'm doing this. Now, I normally get a lot of criticism from, well, not criticism, but a lot of comments from other African American people. People make jokes about it, but some people are really serious. Like, why would you want to work there? Especially when I started working at Whitney. A lot of people don't like the fact that this rich white guy is opening a slave museum. They feel like an African American should have been the one to do that. And I want, if you feel that way, that's perfectly fine. All of your opinions are warranted. But I want you to realize something. A lot of the music that we enjoy, a lot of the blues and jazz and rock that was produced on a large scale by African Americans was done with the help of a wealthy white individual. Normally male, but I digress. So I feel like just because this white guy is telling the story about African Americans, or not even telling the story, because we have a lot of African American tour guides, but because this white guy has set up this platform to have the story told, I don't see anything wrong with that. For the simple fact that historically, a lot of African Americans have improved their conditions and have been able to expand themselves globally because they were helped by a rich white guy, so to speak. So for me, it doesn't matter whether the owner is white, black, Indian, it doesn't matter. What's important is that finally the story is being told. Finally, we can be open and honest and possibly eliminate some of the false information that most people receive about slavery. All of these colored folks weren't happy you could pretend to be happy for fear of retaliation, but many people have this idea that, they were happy to work here. They got to leave Africa and come to a better life, and you can use all of those justifications. But the truth of the matter is that chattel slavery was brutal. And we have the words of people who actually lived that brutality and remember it vividly and were able to give their version of events openly and honestly. So, as African Americans, I think it's very important that we go back to the plantation. Things are different, times are different, but in order to understand why we do some of the things we do, we need to go back and see where it started from. A lot of what happens today in our communities have direct connections with what happened during the times of slavery. We always try to figure out why the male is absent in so many African American families. Historically, a family was always considered, an African American family was always considered a woman and her children. We often wonder why we have some of these traditions, why we have some of these connections between African Americans and food. For example, the stereotype with black people and watermelon. The melon comes from Africa, and because people were out in the fields in the hot sun, watermelon kept you hydrated. So it's not really a black thing. It was a practical thing, you know? You got something to eat, you got something to sleep, but you also stayed hydrated while you were out there. So it's just a lot that we can learn from these narratives and from plantations like Evergreen and the Whitney, you know? So for me, it's not, I don't have this fear that I am, upsetting my ancestors because I personally feel that they are looking down at me and they are probably walking right beside me and are so happy that I've come back to tell their story and make sure that their story is told accurately as we can get. So for me, working at these plantations is not only a passion, but it's an obligation. I feel like as an African American woman, I am obligated to continue on this message because I never learned about these WPA narratives until last semester of college. I took a slavery and servitude class at my school. I didn't know these existed. I didn't know that in addition to them beating you and punishing you, that they would put cayenne pepper and salt in those wounds and make you suffer more. I didn't know that they were afraid that you would learn to read and write. That's why you couldn't read and write. So it's so much that we can see and that we can realize. And for our youth today, the fight is not over. And I think that's why we have so many problems within our communities because we feel that we don't have to fight anymore. We feel that they fought, it's done, it's over with, we're equal, and they feel that we're just okay. We're owed something, and you're not. You have to continue to fight. You have to. You cannot be complacent. You have to continue fighting. You have to continue to make this story known and told and realize what you're doing and how you can change it and how we can fix it and improve things amongst ourselves. We may not ever completely eradicate racism. Maybe not. Maybe we will. But how will we know if we just continue to let things go the way that they're going? And, you know, our generation is not owed anything. If anything, we're obligated. We are obligated to continue to make ourselves better for the sake of those who have fought for us and been beaten for us and bitten and hosed down. We have to continue. We have to. So, in addition to that, working at these plantations is therapeutic because you get a first-hand account of what these people endured. But you also see that a lot of racism that has that lingers on today is because of these ideals and these beliefs 300 years ago. And for me, I am able to continue on with my life because I realize that you might not necessarily like the color of my skin, but it's not me that you don't like. You don't like that I'm black. You don't like that my hair is tightly coiled. You don't like that my hips are big and my lips are big. You may not like that, but you don't even know why you don't like that. So I don't get offended anymore. It's not me that you don't like. It's not Courtney because Courtney is more than the tight coils in her hair, the big lips, big hips, dark skin. I am more than that. So it's not me directly that you have an issue with. It's all of these things on the surface that you have been taught to not like and not trust. So I'm able to grow and continue to succeed. Whereas if I took it in personally that, oh my gosh, you don't like Courtney, you don't like everything that I am, that could be detrimental. But realizing why you don't like me and where it comes from, I'm able to say, I forgive you, I pity you, and move on. It's not about being black on a plantation. It's about being black and going back to tell that story that needs to be told. So I hope that this clarifies some things. I hope that more African Americans will take the time to visit two of these plantations so that you can see what we're doing firsthand and you don't have to let your own feelings deter you from hearing the message. So I invite you to come on out and see what we're doing, learn more about your history because you honestly cannot continue to go forward without knowing where you came from, which is probably why our generation has hit a major roadblock and it's so hard for us to move forward because we don't know the direct connection and what our people suffered. So I hope this helped you guys out and come on and visit us at one of these plantations. I'll be there.